don't know too much about it, so I'm interested to find out. But I knew y'all are building and coming, just haven't, really.
Sorry, say that again. You know what happens is I've got the Skype enabled on my cell phone, and if another call comes through, it puts the Skype on hold, which I've actually never realized that before. So sorry about that. Sorry. Go ahead.
Bringing to you the best stories from icons in the bourbon industry, it's Bourbon Pursuit. Now here are your hosts, Ryan and Kenny.
Welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Pursuit podcast. My name is Kenny, and today we're sitting here with Ryan. And first off, we have to congratulate Ryan because on Saturday, the time has finally come. He went from having little to no time to absolutely no time at all. So, Ryan, welcome, and welcome your two new kids into this world as well.
Yeah, thank you. I'm actually in the labor and delivery, the mother-baby room recording this podcast. So I got my MacBook out and the microphone, and I was like, anybody come in, just don't talk. Don't make any noise. So, no, we're super excited. Rowan and Harlow, we have a boy and a girl, came to us Saturday night, Sunday morning. So we're super excited and learning that tiredness we didn't know what tired meant till now, and that our lives don't matter anymore. It's all about them.
Yeah,
so.
you're gonna come to find out that you don't even know what tired is at this point. Right now, you're in the hospital. You got the nurses kind of coming back and forth and take care of some stuff. But after you're released, man, that's when they don't give you the manual and you're shoved in that whole new world. Yeah,
that's what I hear when the real work starts. So I'll take the nurses. Hand, as long as we can.
Yeah, believe me, you're going to need that. So I guess another question that a lot of people are going to ask is, so I mean, you named your son Rowan. I mean, is there anything about a creek that you kind of got that from? Maybe a distillery from Willett that kind of influenced that?
Yes, yeah. There's Rowan's Creek. Some pronounce it Rowan, but it's a creek that feeds, I guess, Heaven Hill. It runs through Heaven Hill and Willett's distillery, and Willett's has a bourbon line named after Rowan. So it's one of my favorite bourbons, and we were thinking of names that were different, and my wife really liked it, and I liked, the bourbon and everything. So it just kind of worked out. So
well,
my
awesome.
son is named after booze. So
I've got a daughter named Stella, and so it's my wife's favorite beer. So I guess that kind of we have this kind of connection where we just name our kids after lines of booze.
We might have a problem. Yeah.
I know. I guess that's what happens when you give immature people children, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So today we actually have a guest that maybe a lot of people don't know about yet. It's a company that's just starting up. It's the Bardstown Bourbon Company, and today I'm very happy to say here that we have David. And so, David, come ahead and introduce yourself. And when you're introducing yourself, kind of talk about your history with bourbon as well and your role there.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thank you, guys. And it's really a pleasure to be here. And I'll tell you, Ryan, I mean, I know you have your hands full, so it's a real testament to you and to what you're doing with this podcast that you're able to do this a couple days after having twins. I'll tell you.
Real commitment here.
Well, I've got 3 kids myself, and we had 2 of them. They're 8, 6, and 4, but we had 2 of them years ago back when we were starting another spirits company in New York. And I can tell you, I know how hard it is having kids and trying to balance a work life. So
I'm slowly figuring that out.
Yeah, well, you're going to need a good amount of bourbon. You'll enjoy it.
Exactly. Got one here in the room hiding from the nurses.
Well, good. Well, I'll tell you, in terms of my background, I've been very fortunate to be in the spirits industry now off and on for over a decade. And my background is kind of an interesting one. I started off as an attorney and then went into government. I was the chief of staff for the Federal Aviation Administration, and then ended up starting my own vodka company, which was called Pink Vodka. And we were the first to put caffeine in alcohol, which was a very innovative concept back in the early 2000s. And we sold that company in 2009. And we were involved in the spirits industry in a number of different ways, but this project came together, and the project is the Bardstown Bourbon Company over the last 3 years, and it has been really a remarkable one. As you asked, I'm the president and CEO of the company, and The Bardstown Bourbon Company, we are a destination experience. So we're really the first Napa Valley style distillery and campus on the Bourbon Trail. We have 100 acres of active farmland right at the gateway to Bardstown, the bourbon capital of the world. We have Steve Nally is our master distiller, Bourbon Hall of Fame master distiller with Maker's Mark for, over 30 years, and then went on to build Wyoming whiskey. And we got him as he was coming back, and a wonderful man and a wonderful asset. And we just announced a partnership with Mahalo Spirits, which was the sales and marketing team behind Angel's Envy, and we're developing a brand with them. So we really have some really exciting things that are going to be happening in Bardstown and at the Bardstown Bourbon Company.
So I guess tell us about the kind of, it's the bourbon company, but tell us a little bit maybe about the spirits that are going to happen there as well.
Sure, and the focus is all on whiskey. So whiskey, rye, bourbon, and our goal is to really make some of the highest quality products at this distillery, and it's a large distillery. So we're focused on kind of three lines of business. They're obviously our own brands and what we produce. We're also going to be doing custom production for, many of the small distilleries and others around the country. Because as there's a large market for wholesale bourbon, and there's very little wholesale bourbon that comes out of Kentucky. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at producing really high quality Kentucky bourbon, for many craft and smaller distilleries that may want to use it to start as a base or are interested in partnering with us in terms of producing the product. So, for many craft distillers, bourbon and whiskey and rye is not easy to make, but they might want to make it. They might have, their own recipes, their own mash bills, and essentially work with our master distiller to produce custom runs. And, it's be a very collaborative experience. And then, of course, there is our hospitality, our event space, and our tours. And we're really looking at some very innovative things there in terms of how to create, a tour and experience on this property that is different from anywhere else.
So I guess one thing that we forgot to do at the very beginning, and this is something we always need to ask our guests, is give us your bourbon story, right? I mean, do you remember like your first taste of bourbon, your first bottle or something like that, and what kind of maybe led you into the spirits business to begin with?
Well, I'll tell you my first experience, which goes back really to my grandfather. And, I can't say that this was the impetus to getting into the bourbon market, but I do remember my grandfather, and this is, my mother's side of the family grew up in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, which is very rural out, in Amish country. And my earliest memories of my grandfather, who was a stonemason, was, drinking shot of Jim Beam, with a little bit of water every night before he went to bed. And of course, he lived to be into his late 90s, and that was always what he said was, responsible for it. So I think there are a lot of families that have similar stories that remember their grandparents, their grandfather. My grandmother also similarly did similar things. So.
It's funny. I mean, it kind of reminds me of, you anybody remember that movie called Grumpy Old Men? It was in the 90s. Yeah, he said, he ate a pack of bacon and smoked a pack of cigarettes a day, and he lived into his 90s. Yeah, and he said that's what it was there for.
I know. It's the truth, isn't it? But that, I'll tell you, that was my earliest memory of bourbon and of whiskey. And it's something over the years that obviously, when my prior spirits business was in the vodka business, and at that time, the vodka was all the rage in the early 2000s and, the late 90s. And we had a very interesting concept. And, as we came out of that business, I got very interested in rum and in darker spirits. My sister works for Remy Martin and is the senior brand manager for Louis XIII. So I really came to appreciate and really get into a lot of the darker spirits. And of course, got into creative cocktailing, and that inevitably leads into whiskey and bourbon, and have been able to spend a number of years over the last years really getting to enjoy it, appreciate it, and and it's a wonderful product with a great history.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about before we come on here, and the history is so rich. And then Ryan was talking about how he knows the Bissigs from Bardstown. So I guess talk a little bit about your operation that you're currently building, and what it's going to entail, how big is it going to be, and everything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a 37,000 square foot distillery. It's big. And it really is a beautiful project. So it is a very modern design. So the distillery itself has a mid-century modern design. So it doesn't look like the distillery that you might expect. And really the whole purpose, and the whole image behind the Bardstown Bourbon Company is it's a transparent experience. We are all about making great product, showing you how it's made, no secrets, no kind of made up stories. This is about celebrating the production of bourbon, and whiskey, and the community that brought it to the world, and that's Bardstown. So everything that we're doing at the Bardstown Bourbon Company is focused on the community. We have, Busa Construction, our construction team, our design team is all local. As we said, we're growing the products on our land, and we're sourcing everything for the bourbon from the surrounding community and from the farmers. Much of our equipment is coming from Bardstown for Mac manufacturing. Also, obviously, Vendome for the still, but we're bringing in as many components as we can locally. Quality Glass is producing much of the glass within the distillery. So we're trying to keep everything focused on the community. And it's a farm to table experience. So it's very different from anything else that's out there, because we have the ability to design the experience in the facility really from the ground up.
So what edge do you think that gives you in comparison in terms of, say, some of the Beams and the Four Roses of the world, who kind of did a lot of the same things you were doing, and they are in Heaven Hills too, kind of selling off overstock to kind of make whatever kind of craft distilleries or wherever they're sourced from. So what's going to give you that sort of edge in comparison to what they're doing?
I think part of the difference is when you're talking about, collaborative production, is it's not just the sale of wholesale, product. We're looking at working with side by side with, people and craft distilleries that want to produce in making the product. So it's custom production. And, that we have the capacity and the ability to do that. And that's really different. That's kind of sitting down and working on a product or on something innovative and producing smaller runs of it. And providing, many, many different kind of flexible options to create that. That's on the wholesale side. On the visitors experience side, the beauty of what we have is we have the opportunity to look at things from a fresh perspective and, to create the tour and the experience literally from the ground up as we're designing the facility to accommodate a certain experience. And that's unique, because, and this is no criticism of anybody. But, a lot of the facilities out there, these are, they're big, companies that work their way backwards into the visitors experience and the tours and had to adjust around them. We have the opportunity to build this in from the beginning.
Absolutely. And I think the custom production, it's got me thinking, because I think it's a fantastic business model, because if you have to think of anybody that wants to try and take advantage of the market of what's happening right now and have them come out and create their own whiskey or source their own barrels, there's a lot of hoops to jump through. And so instead of you all saying, well, we're just going to build our own product and our own brands and say, screw everyone else, you're kind of inviting everybody in and saying, come on, let's all do this together. We can kind of craft, we can make all these different things. And at the same time, it also kind of gives you the capital to partner with these people and kind of get those funds going to get these projects rolling. So from a business standpoint, it makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And, I think the other thing is that, we're incorporating, the products and the people that we work for and we make their products, that'll be incorporated into the tour and the experience, at the facility. So it really is, it's a different model than really anything else that's out there, in the sense that, our size and our capacity gives us the ability to do this.
Yeah. So what are you going to do with all that size and all that stuff? I mean, 30,000 square feet or 37,000 square feet, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. What are you going to do with all this space? Like, what could you possibly, you could basically have your own farmland at this point.
well, the capacity of the facility it's a 1.5 million gallon proof, still, which obviously we can get about, up to 3 million proof gallons out of it if we're running it in 2 shifts, with the number of fermenters that we have there. And the facility is built to expand. So there is a lot of growth potential there. And in terms of the rest of the facility, we have a visitor center in the facility with 2 classrooms, tasting bar, retail space, and an area that we have designed to do events in too. So, we're going to be looking to do a lot of events for the Bardstown and local areas, everything from corporate events to wedding events. And our future plans, phase 2 of this project calls for separate event space, hotel, and restaurant. So we're really looking at bringing the whole Napa Valley style experience to the Bourbon Trail. This is what
Thank
you see
God.
all through California.
Yeah, we need a lot more restaurants in Bardstown. That's where they're lacking. The Harrison Smith House is great, and a few others, but we're really lacking. Like when people say they're touring Bardstown, I'm like, oh, it's great, small town, but you only got a handful of things to do, and that's about
Well,
it.
I'll tell you a little secret, which you'll be one of the first to put this out on your podcast, but we have a great relationship with the Harrison Smith House, and they're going to be doing all of our food in the distillery for our guests and for the tours. So we're going to have a branded Harrison Smith House restaurant within the facility.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's what's missing from Bardstown is the from versus like Sonoma or Napa is the in Napa and Sonoma you got probably hundreds of 4 or 5 star restaurants right there that you can enjoy the wine and then go have an awesome dinner, whereas in Bardstown you're very selected. So I think it'd be cool to keep bringing in some new creating that atmosphere as well there.
And I think that Bardstown is just really kind of at the beginning of where it's headed. I think Harrison Smith House is a wonderful example. I mean, Harrison Smith House is a restaurant that I would put against anything in Chicago, in New York, in Philly, in Louisville. I mean, the food is exceptional. And, there are many other great places in Bardstown as well. And I think that, the city is just beginning to see kind of the beginning of the rise, and we really hope to be a part of that.
That's cool. Excited for it.
Yeah, it's definitely, you can tell you've got a lot of room for expansion with all these ideas and all these thoughts you're bringing to the table. Like now you got wedding receptions and bar mitzvahs and what else can you fit there, right? I mean, it sounds like you got a lot of stuff going. Bed and breakfast, like we can keep going.
We're building, again, we're creating this so it will be this unique experience where you could, have so many different types of events. And I'll tell you, I mean, one of the great things has been working with the local leadership in Bardstown. Everyone from the former mayor, Mayor Shekels, to the current mayor, John Royalty, to Kim Houston, the head of economic development, and Judge Nelson, who's the county judge executive. The leadership in Bardstown has been excellent. They're business friendly. They helped make it possible for us to make this move into the community. So it's the folks there, they get it, and it's exciting to be part of it.
So what are the current plans right now, right? I mean, I'm assuming ground's been broken, things are kind of starting to move. So, I mean, what's your kind of timeline for getting those stills running?
Sure, things are moving quickly. We broke ground in October. We lost a little bit of time over the winter because I'm sure you guys were there more than me. It was a rough one. And we finally got the foundation in. The walls are going up this month. The equipment's being set. So we're on track to open the facility and be in production by summer next year. And that's our goal.
Good deal. So I guess that's the short-term plan. So if you're in production, right, and you're working with these people, to be called a bourbon has to be aged at least 2 years. So you've got another 2-year gap in there. So what are your kind of plans there for revenue or spirits? Or
how do we fill
like
the gap, right?
Yeah.
So how do we start making money?
There are a couple of different ways. Obviously, the facility on the custom production side is able to begin generating, product immediately. And I can tell you, we have already had such an outpouring of different potential customers, I'd say, from all over the country, and the world. I mean, we had a number of brokers that came in from Belgium the other day to meet with us because they're, really looking to get Kentucky bourbon for the international market. So, we're seeing a tremendous amount of interest in that piece. We also, own a large inventory of bourbon, and we're building a brand right now, which you may have seen. That was the announcement with Mahalo Spirits, with the team behind Angel's Envy, to develop a new brand that ultimately the distillery will have will produce, for going forward. And it's really a neat, very, very neat concept. I can't get into it, but it's going to be a beautiful brand.
Well, good. So I guess those are the short-term plans. What are your long-term plans with the facility?
Long-term plans are to build the facility, into, a great spirits company, and to be able to, when I say that, a bourbon, whiskey, and rye, production facility, but to be able to produce innovative products and move them to market, both on, our own brands, and being able to really some very interesting and new things there, and then of course on the custom side. And then the events and hospitality experience, as I said, the goal is to create that Napa Valley style campus there and have that as really the centerpiece on the Bourbon Trail. When you want the high end experience and you want great service, and all of it, you're going to come to the Bardstown Bourbon Company.
That's fantastic. It sounds like you guys kind of got your PowerPoint presentations down for investors, and you said this is what we're going to do, right?
Well, I'll tell you, we have a great vision for this. We have a wonderful investment team behind us that has patient and understands that this is a very long-term, this is a long-term project. This is not, a 2, 3, 5, 10-year project and out. So we're building this for the long term, especially when you look at it takes, 6 years on the good side to start having some great product come out of those barrels.
Right.
Yeah, it's always seems like it'd be so difficult to start up. But it seems like you all kind of figured out to get cash flowing by outsourcing some of the production of these micro distilleries. That's pretty brilliant, I think, to kind of get some cash going up front.
And yeah. I guess with that as well, with these micro distilleries that are kind of coming to you all, you all chose Kentucky. You could have chosen anywhere because really you can make bourbon anywhere. I mean, what was the kind of solidifying fact of saying, we can do this in Kentucky and we can attract more business by having our facilities there as well?
Yeah, there were several pieces to the decision we made here. One was the community of Bardstown. 2 was the leadership in Bardstown. And the how accommodating they were and how they wanted us to become part of the community. And 3, from a straight business decision. Look, at the end of the day, whether it is in the United States or internationally, people want Kentucky bourbon. That's what they want. Now they may accept different products from different distilleries around the country. And, there's always going to be great innovation coming out. But at the end of the day, it's, while the regulations aren't the same, it's still like champagne. People want champagne, right? They don't want sparkling wine. Now, you can make bourbon anywhere, but people in their minds think about the history of bourbon and Kentucky, and that's what it comes back to. At least that's my opinion.
I would not disagree with that one bit.
Well, and you can also play off all, the big boys that are there now, Heaven Hill, Jim Beam, and Willits and makers that, why not go pop in and see Bardstown Bourbon Company, see what they're up to too, So it's pretty smart to have it there as well.
I think that's right. And, we're spending a lot of time getting to know everybody, and, we plan to be great, corporate citizens and want to get involved in the community and the other distillers and, help make Bardstown as much the center of bourbon as it should be.
So you guys are proving that you can come and you can make a new entrance to the market here. So I guess if there's anybody out there that listens and they're thinking to themselves like, maybe I could do this, right? I can try to go make a quick buck when this, whatever this fad is that's kind of going on. What are some of the biggest hurdles that you've kind of seen so far in your years of experience in the spirits industry that kind of seem as big time blockers for anybody that kind of wants to try to make a name for themselves or try to get into this industry?
Look, first of all, I would be the last person to tell somebody not to do something, because I think, if you're entrepreneurial and, you give it a good shot, you've got a good chance of, you can always work hard and you've got a shot at making it. Now, look, like starting any business, most businesses, it's hard. It's hard to start a new business. That being said, the spirits business is a particularly challenging one. And there are a number of reasons for that. On the brand side, look, think of it this way. When you go into a bar and you walk into the bar and you look at what's on the back bar, it's changing now. There are a lot of craft spirits, but still that back bar is particularly dominated by large multi-billion-dollar companies. And the opportunity, you think about it as if everybody is in that bar marketing at the same time, and you're marketing for the attention of the bartender and for the customer, and what are the different opportunities to get that brand in front of the potential consumer. It's hard. It's very competitive. It's expensive. So, and obviously it differs depending on whether you're in the whiskey category, whether you're in gin, vodka, whether you're a craft spirit. But it's a very competitive market, and it is an expensive market, and you have to be patient, and you have to be able to build the brand carefully. You've got to do it yourself. You can't rely on anybody. The distributor's not going to build the brand for you. They may assist a little bit, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to do it, and it's going to be a slow road. So, there's a lot of patience. There's a lot of determination. There's going to be a lot of hard work, and it's a hard business. It has just about every challenge that you can imagine a business would have in the spirits business.
Just a lot of hustle and sweat like anything else, right?
Hustle and sweat, but, you have everything else from, regulatory and legal considerations. It's a labor-intensive, business. It's not like an internet-based e-commerce business. You're out there. You've got to go hand sell that product. You've got to sell it into the bars, into the restaurants, into the retail stores, and you got to be there and you've got to work them. And, that's on the brand side. The wholesale side that we're getting into in visitors experience is a whole host of other challenges. So, and I think a lot of the craft distilleries that are in there, see much of that too. But at the same time, it's also a wonderfully rewarding community, and it's a very exciting business to be in.
So we talked a little bit earlier about Steve, and I kind of want to just talk about Steve just for a second. Hopefully one day we can get him on the podcast. And, I guess this is one of the things that as micro places want to start looking at making a rye or even a white dog or a bourbon, and they're going to say, okay, well, we got to figure out where we're going to go to do this stuff. And then immediately maybe Bardstown Bourbon will pop in their head. So I guess Steve might be an attraction to this, right? So tell us about Steve Nally, a little bit more in depth about who he is, the background he brings in, and what he's capable to bring to some of these places that are looking to expand their product lines.
Absolutely. Steve is one of the most important components, of all of this. And he is such a critical member of our team. And I'll tell you, the relationship that we have all developed with Steve and on our team over the past, more than a year has been a wonderful one. And, what Steve brings is a number of things. He obviously his, tremendous expertise, in producing bourbon and whiskey, and understanding the process. But, from our standpoint, there are a couple of different things. Not only does Steve have 40 years in the business and in production, he also has built the facility. So he built Wyoming whiskey from the ground up. So we've had, great experience with him and leading, working side by side with Busick on a day-to-day basis to lead the construction team, to build a first-class distillery, that a master distiller would want. So from a design perspective and having him in there, it could not be a better situation. And then when you're talking about large-scale production, that's what Steve has expertise in doing that. That's not easy. It's one thing as a craft distiller making, 100 barrels or less. It's another thing operating, still like we have and being able to consistently produce high-quality product in large volume, depending whether it's, rye, whether it's bourbon, whether it's whiskey. But that's an expertise that Steve has, and that's not an easy one to come by.
That's fantastic. I definitely can see that as being an attractor for a lot of these companies to say we know who we want to partner with because of the talent that they can bring to the table.
Yeah, it helps take a lot of the guesswork out. He already been through the ring of fire, and he can help them along.
That's right. And he's also a very creative individual, and he's also very excited about making lots of different things, and which is what the company and and innovation at Bardstown Bourbon Company is is a central piece of what we're going to be doing.
So Ryan, I guess now we got to figure out what our brand name is if we're going to go with Bourbon Pursuit Bourbon and go and make a few barrels for us or something like that, right?
Well, I'll tell you what, guys, you got to come down and see us.
Well, we'll definitely do that. When you guys
where are you at exactly in Bardstown?
We're right on 1500 Parkway Drive, which when you come off the Bluegrass Parkway to go into Bardstown, you go right to the left, and we are the 100 acres that are sitting right on the parkway.
Okay, so pretty close to like the Kentucky Gun Company in that area.
Right across from them, right across the parkway.
Great. That'll be a great location for you all.
Yeah.
Well, good. So we're reaching the top of the 30-minute mark here. So, David, for anybody that wants to get in touch with you or learn more about the Bardstown Bourbon Company, where do they go and how do they do it?
Sure. Check us out, bardstownbourbon.com. You can, find us on Facebook. Definitely like us on Facebook. It's Facebook and it's Bardstown Bourbon Company. At Twitter, we're B-Town Bourbon. That's B-T-O-W-N Bourbon. But come check us out. And, we have lots of updates that we're posting. If you want to follow the construction of the facility, best thing to do is go to our Facebook page. We're always posting new updates and pictures. So we'd love to connect with you.
Well, I hope that we can connect with you again here in about a year when everything's up and running. We can get you and anybody else to kind of give you the post-mortem of the trials and tribulations of what it is to start a big operation like this.
It's my pleasure, and I'll be happy to come on anytime.
Well, fantastic.
Awesome. Thanks, David. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So if you like what you hear, make sure you follow us on Facebook. You can also like us. Actually, you could probably like us on Facebook. You can probably follow us on Twitter at Bourbon Pursuit. You can also look at all of our past episodes at bourbonpursuit.com.
Yep. Any suggestions, and feedback, we always want to improve the show, so just let us know, and we'll see you next time.
There we go.